In a desperate attempt to turn his premiership around, Rishi Sunak has sat down with Piers Morgan. It didn't go well.
NHS waiting lists.
We have not made enough progress.
You failed on that pledge.
Yes.
Because you said NHS waiting lists will fall. In fact, they are slightly coming down now, but the waiting list is still nearly 500,000 more than it was at the start of last year. Yeah. You accept that?
Yes, and we all know the reasons for that. What I would say to people is, look, we've invested record amounts in the NHS, more doctors, more nurses, more scanners. All these things mean that the NHS is doing more today than it ever has been, but industrial action has had an impact. And in November, you talked about this, in November we had a month where there was no strikes for the first time.
Yeah.
And do you know what happened to the waiting list? They fell by almost 100,000.
Yes, there are problems in the NHS, but it's all the fault of the doctors. It's all the fault of the doctors. They're the problem with the NHS. I don't think people are going to buy that, right? When he says, we all know why that is. We all know why it's not going very well in the NHS. Well, the reason it's not going very well is because you squeezed it of money for a decade. Then we had a pandemic and it fell on its face, right? Now they are putting more money into the NHS, but when you sort of flood a system which has been starved for so long, it doesn't tend to sort of work particularly efficiently. Obviously, they could flood it with a bit more money and get the doctors back to work by giving them the pay rise I think they probably deserve. This was the grossest part of the interview, though.
If I said to you, I'll bet you £1,000 to a refugee charity, you don't get anybody on those planes before the election, will you take that bet?
Well, I want to get the people on the planes, right? Of course I want to get the people on the planes.
£1,000.
Right? I want to get the people on the planes.
Ugh. Rishi Sunak, the richest prime minister ever, shaking hands with Piers Morgan with £1,000 bet that some presumably rather desperate people will be unwillingly on a plane to Rwanda. Ash, what did you make of that?
If I speak, I will get in big trouble. All I can say is that it's two incredibly wealthy men with more money than they have humanity, turning what is a matter of life and death for asylum seekers into a media spectacle. Now, that's what we've come to expect from Piers Morgan. That's his entire MO. But for Rishi Sunak, I think that it embodies his desperation to be liked, even when he's wandering into a trap. This is not going to turn out well for him. If he wins the bet, he will come off incredibly callous. And if he loses the bet, he's a political failure. A smarter politician would have realised that, but he's like that kid who wants to get really chummy with the bully, not realising that it's going to be his head flushed down the toilet next.